Hey everybody, it is a cool, quiet evening and I have a couple projects that I have to do. This is the time of year where you cannot turn your back on the garden for one day, because if you do, it will get away from you really quickly, and that has happened to me. On Saturday, I harvested 2 huge bowls, like this big, of beans. And I came home yesterday from a quick trip, a 2-day, like 1.5 day. And Brian had harvested so many more beans and a bunch of cucumbers. So tonight I'm going to take you along for 2 projects that I'm going to do. I'm going to preserve some beans, and I'm also going to make some refrigerator pickles. So I have already made this year, I think like 14 or 15 quarts of dill pickles. I've made 6 pints of British bread and butter pickles. I've made 6 pints of regular bread and butter pickles. So tonight I'm going to make a quick pickle, a refrigerator pickle. And then I'm also going to make with the next batch, which will probably be next week or after. I'm going to make a batch of, what are they called? Sweet and hot pickles, sandwich pickles. So I wanted to, I'm seeing some spotted cucumber beetle action on my pepper. What the heck? Look at this guy. Look at him. See that? Squish. I just wanted to quickly talk to you about the beans. Now, I've already told you about dragon's tongue, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but you know what a fan I am of those, as well as the purple potted, which I also love. I just wanted to give you an update on Cherokee Trail of Tears. So here they are. They're beautiful, for sure. They have these really pretty kind of light purple flowers, but the beans themselves are really tough. They're sweet, but they're woody even when they're small. And so I have to say I wouldn't recommend them 100%. I probably won't grow them again. Although I loved the story of kind of their origin, don't love them. The other beans that I grew this year are these bush beans here. Oh, I'm seeing all these pests that I feel like I need to squish. So these bush beans here are called Provider, and I'm telling you, they provide. They are loaded with beans that I have to harvest tonight so they don't get woody. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to take them in and show you all of the beans that we harvested in the last day. It's nuts. It's hard to believe I'm out here in a sweatshirt, seeing as the last 2 days were close to 40 degrees with the humidity. Brutal. You know that you're getting kind of not tired of the garden season, but when it's enough, when you pull a bean plant out when you're harvesting and it doesn't make you angry. Provider provides. Yikes. So this is our bean harvest over the last day. We've got some purple potted and Provider, as well as dragon's tongue. And when I preserve them, I do not sort them. They all kind of go in together, either if I'm blanching and freezing or if I am canning. So I've already canned a bunch. So I'm going to blanch and freeze these. But first I have to wash the cucumbers and cut them up and get them soaking. It has been a long day and it is going to be a late evening, but if I don't get this done today, we have a project to work on tomorrow. I'm not gonna have time. One of the things about growing a big garden is that you can eat fresh produce, you know, every night, all day long, and not eat all of it. And so we do grow enough to preserve it. So you have to make sure that you dedicate some time to preservation. And for beans, the fastest way to do it is to blanch them. And I only blanch them for about a minute or so. Put them in Ziploc bags and freeze them. You guys, hey, behave. I also have some zucchinis that I have to process, but those I'm gonna turn into chocolate zucchini bread tomorrow morning. The nice thing is it's nice and cool out, so we can turn the oven on without worrying about overheating the house. For the pickle recipe, like I said, I'm making the refrigerator pickles, and they are on page 287 of the Ball Home Preserving cookbook, or it's not a cookbook, or whatever is this. The Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving. So on page 287, I'm making the refrigerator pickles, and I'm following the recipe exactly. So the first thing I have to do is wash the cubes. And when I harvest the cucumbers, if they come in kind of sporadically, we put them in these quart the dairy bags. And when there's enough in here, I will process them. So as they've been coming in, I've been making the pickles, bread and butter, dill, whatever it is. So we're gonna have enough pickles for a long while, which is great. So I need 6 cups of sliced trimmed pickling cucumbers, 1/2 inch or 1 centimeter slices. So I'm gonna get to work on that now. Because these are refrigerator pickles, there's no water bath canning or anything like that. You basically make them in the jar and then put them in the refrigerator. So it makes a smaller amount, which is good. I wish my food processor sliced to 1 centimeter right now. And then it says 1 onion peeled and sliced into 1/2 centimeter slices or 1/4 inch. Now what I might do is double this recipe and make quart jars instead of pints. That's what I'm thinking right now, because I have enough. So the real name of these pickles are called the Easy Zesty Bread and Butter Chunks, and the spicy comes actually from horseradish that you add. So this will be the first time that I've ever made pickles with horseradish, so I'm kind of excited about that. But the next step is to make a spice bag. So the recipe calls for a 1/4 cup, but because I've doubled it, I'm going to put a 1/2 cup of pickling spice in, what is this called? Oh boy. In cheesecloth and tie it closed. Good night, my brain. Okay, so I'm just gonna show you how to make a quick spice bag here if you've never made one before. It's pretty simple. If you don't have cheesecloth, but you have some other kind of food grade material that is porous, you can see through that. I'm sorry, my dogs are having some shenanigans here. But you just put the spices in here and then you tie it into a little satchel so that the spice can infuse into the vinegar liquid. So I'm gonna put a 1/2 cup. You too. Stop it. Hey. Look at these two. This is what I have to deal with. They've been outside all day, but they still got ants in their pants. Okay, back to spice bag. So all I did was pour the spice into the cheesecloth and then close up the edges, pull up the corners, and then I just spin it around so it's tight, like a little ball like this. And then I'm just going to wrap butcher's twine around it and tie it closed. And you just want to make sure all the corners have been pulled up so that you don't have any spice spillage. There we go. The next step says to combine all of my cucumbers. So I have 12 cups of cucumbers. And 2 diced onions. diced, sliced onions. I'm just gonna mix them up a little bit into a pot. Of course, Brian has to start using a chainsaw. Gotta love him. He's a hard-working dude. Whoops. Okay, and so into this pot, I'm going to add 6 cups of white vinegar because I've doubled the recipe. If you're doing a single recipe, you're gonna do 3. 2/3 of a cup of sugar. So I'm gonna add 2 of those. Four tablespoons of pickling salt. 2 tablespoons of horseradish. Hopefully this is horseradish sauce. Ooh, I don't think I can use this. Bummer. I was in a rush and I didn't realize that I got horseradish sauce and not horseradish. And I'm not going to use this because it has weird things in it like eggs. So in order to get the zesty in here, I think I'm going to try to add some chili flakes. That should give it some zest. So we're just gonna doctor this up a little bit because I'm already into her. Will this make a big difference? Probably. Maybe. Let's do half a tablespoon. That'll hopefully give it a little zest, or a lot. God. Okay. 1 tablespoon of celery seed. Oh, 2 tablespoons celery seed. 4 teaspoons ground ginger. Need that. I've got so much stuff in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 2 teaspoons ground turmeric. It's a bummer about the horseradish, especially because I don't eat horseradish, and Brian's got a bunch of horseradish growing down in his garden. However, I would have to like prepare it. Boo. Okay, so I've got my white vinegar, my sugar, my salt, my peppers, because my chili peppers, because I didn't have horseradish, celery seed, ginger, and turmeric. So now I'm going to bring this to a boil. It figures the time I'm trying to video it, I don't have the proper ingredients, but that's okay. You can mess around with this. And that's one thing to consider whenever you're making pickles. As long as your brine tastes the way you want it and has enough acidity, which is the vinegar part, you can basically add any kind of spices you want to make the flavor that you want. So next time I'm going to try maybe to prepare Brian's horseradish from the garden, although the deer ate it as well. And then I can use that, but that apparently is a process, so I'm not sure when I'm gonna get to that either. So I'm going to bring this to a boil for 5 minutes. I forgot I need to add my little spice bag. So first I'm gonna give this a little whiskeroni just to dissolve that sugar and the spices, get them all combined. In goes the spice bag. And you wanna, whenever you make a spice bag, you wanna make sure that it's food grade. So cheesecloth is food grade, as well as butcher's twine, which means you can put it in food products. So we're gonna let that come to a boil a gentle boil for 5 minutes, and then that gets poured over the cucumbers. In the meantime, I'm gonna start rinsing the beans. You might be thinking right now, don't you eat any of these fresh? I have plants full of beans still out there, beans that are still coming on, so yes, we do. We also make dilly beans, but I mean, dilly beans are like a snack, so it's not like a food. So we do make them, but we just don't eat a whole bunch of them as much as we would eat these in the winter time. I'm gonna blanch and freeze these. Okay, the brine has boiled or simmered for 5 minutes. Now we're going to pour it over the mixture and let the mixture cool to room temperature with a piece of wax paper over it. And it doesn't quite cover it, so I'm probably just gonna stir it around a little bit every now and again as it cools so that the flavors are mixed. Not bad, but I'll show you. It doesn't completely cover all the pickles or all the cucumbers and onions. And that's parsnip. One of those nights. There you go. All right, and then we just let that cool to room temperature. So while I'm letting that cool, I'm gonna go down and get the jars, and I'm gonna start processing my beans for blanching. All I do to process the beans is take a handful. I cut the tops and the bottoms off, and the reason I cut both ends is because I don't take the time to make sure all of the stem ends are on one end, so I just do them both. And then I cut them about in half if they're really big. That's it. This little lady is in trouble because when we let her outside, she goes into the turkey coop and the chicken coop and eats chicken feed, and she's eating the turkey grower, and she herself is growing. So she's pouting. I'm on my last load of beans, and I just wanted to show you how I blanch them. So my water is boiling. I just add the beans, to the water. And I make sure they're all underneath. And basically all blanching does is kill any of the bacteria on the outside of the vegetable that would cause it to soften or to rot. So it doesn't have to be in there for a long time. I find that if you leave them much longer than a minute, it makes them mushy after freezing. And what you want is that when you thaw them, they're still crispy and crunchy when heated. When we go to eat these in the wintertime after I've thawed them, I put about half a cup of water in a microwavable bowl, and I microwave them for a couple of minutes. And once I think, usually I just wait till they go like that bright green color. Well, the green means go a bright green color like that. And I put them in a bowl. This bowl might be too small. And then I transfer them to a sink of cold water. Give them a little swish. And then all I do is add them to a Ziploc bag, and I fill it about 3/4 full. You can make this water ice water, but I don't. I just use regular cold water from the tap. It comes out of our well pretty cold. I just tap them down. And then all you want to do is, I just give them a tap, and then I zip them closed. And I've seen some people use straws and stuff to get the air out. I don't know, I don't really bother. I just get as much air out as I can. We seem to eat these pretty quick. Usually we eat these first and then we move on to the canned beans, so it works out pretty good. They tend not to get freezer burned unless they get lost in the bottom of the freezer, but I've alleviated that problem since we've got a stand-up freezer as well now. All those beans, once trimmed and cut, gave me 6 bags of beans, which is 6 bags is at least 12 meals. All right, gonna go put these in the freezer. All right, now on to the last order of business, which is putting our fridge pickles, our easy zesty bread and butter chunks, into the jars and putting them in the fridge. So I've given them a stir a couple of times. They're definitely down to room temperature. So now I'm just gonna use a ladle and fill the jars. Maybe bring this over here. Bring you guys in a little closer. All right. They smell really good. We eat a lot of pickles, and so it's nice to try kind of new recipes. I've never done fridge pickles before, so this is kind of exciting. It's neat to be trying something new. I always like to make quarts whenever I do stuff like this because Brian and I do like pickles. So when we eat them, we tend to go through the pints really quickly. So for us, quarts are good. And then I don't mind making some smaller pints to give away, but for us, the bigger containers are better. And I don't have to be as finicky loading these and worrying about spillage because they are just going in the fridge. So we aren't water bath or pressure canning these, which is nice. I am gonna go ahead and wipe the rims with vinegar, more out of habit than anything, but because we're not looking for these to seal, they're not hot, so they haven't been water bathed, so they won't form a vacuum. But I do kind of want the rims and the kind of lips of the jar to be clean when I put the lid on. And I'm just actually going to wipe around the rims because I did do quite a bit of spilling. And I'm going to actually give them a wipe with the cloth before I throw them in the fridge. And so the instructions say that you should wait at least 24 hours before you eat them, but they're best if you wait up to 2 weeks or at least 2 weeks before eating them. So that is most likely what we will do. Just one more way to preserve those cucumbers that we worked so hard to grow and battled the cucumber beetles to be able to eat. Well, thanks for hanging out with me tonight, preserving some beans, making these pickles for the first time. So to date this year, I have made fermented dill, regular dill, our favorite dill recipe. I've made British bread and butter, regular bread and butter, and now the easy zesty bread and butter chunks. So what I'm going to do at the end of the season is actually come back and try them all. I already know what the fermented tastes like. They're amazing. Brian and I both like them. So with the next batch, I might make some of those, but I would like to make a mustard sweet and spicy pickle if we have enough cucumbers come on. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Hope you all have a great night. We'll see you next time.